and thank you so much for visiting my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 4 super easy and delicious slow cooker recipes. All 4 of these recipes are made with simple ingredients, come together super easily, and the best part, they're all family friendly. So I really hope you enjoy the video. Let's go get started.
To get us started off, we are making this simple chicken teriyaki recipe. So to get started, I mixed together a 1/4 cup of honey, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of low sodium soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, and about 2 tablespoons of minced garlic in a bowl, and then I just set that aside. Then I moved on to get my chicken breast ready. So I seasoned mine with some Kinder seasoning. It's one of my favorite go-to seasonings, and then I put some salt and pepper on it as well. I seasoned both sides. If you don't have Kinder seasoning, you can just do salt and pepper if you'd like. If you have another seasoning you like, then you can use that instead. Once I was done seasoning my chicken breasts, I then placed them in the crock pot. I took the sauce that I had made earlier and I poured it all over the chicken breast. I put the lid on and I set the crock pot to cook on high for 5 hours. You could also cook this on low for around 8 hours if you had more time. Once the chicken was done cooking, I took them out of the crock pot and I shredded them with 2 forks. Now I need to finish up the sauce for the chicken. So I took the sauce that was left in the crock pot and I poured it through a strainer into a saucepan. What was left in the strainer, I just threw that away. And over medium to high heat, I cooked the sauce until it came to a simmer. While the sauce was heating up, I mixed together 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and about 1/4 cup of water. So once the sauce came to a simmer, I poured the cornstarch mixture into the saucepan and then I just gave that a good stir. I let this heat up and I wanted to bring it to a boil. I cooked it for about 2 to 3 minutes, stirring it frequently until it had thickened up. Next, I just chopped up some of the green onion I needed. I needed about 1/4 cup, so I just took a few stalks and I chopped that up so then I can use this to top on top of the chicken. So once the sauce was all done and had thickened up, I took that sauce and I poured it all over the shredded chicken that I had put back into the crock pot. And then I tossed that up really well just to make sure that all of the chicken was coated with the sauce. And then lastly, I just topped the chicken with some sesame seeds and then the green onions that I had chopped up earlier. So to serve, I just topped the teriyaki chicken onto some steamed white rice. You could also do brown rice. You could even do steamed cauliflower rice if you were looking for a lower carb option. And then I just completed the meal with some steamed broccoli that I had topped with some salt and pepper. Now we're going to make these awesome smothered chicken burritos with a cheesy cream sauce. So to get started, I just diced up 1/2 of an onion and I also sliced up about 1.5 cups of mushrooms. Next, I got my 3 large chicken breasts into the crock pot and I drizzled a little bit of olive oil onto both sides of the chicken. Then I just needed to season my chicken breast, so I just put 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a pinch of salt and pepper, and then I just flipped the chicken breast and I did all of the same measurements on the other side. Once my chicken breasts were fully seasoned, I just added in 1/2 cup of mild salsa. You can of course add in any heat of salsa that you prefer, we just like mild. I also added in 1 can of fire roasted tomatoes, about 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, and 1 4-ounce can of mild diced green chilies. And then next I just added in my sliced mushroom as well as my diced onion. And then I put in 1 can of black beans that I made sure to drain and give a good rinse. And then I just topped it with 1 tablespoon of salted butter. So once everything was added, I just put the lid on my slow cooker and I set it to cook at high for 4 hours. You could also cook it on low for about 6 or 7 hours. You just want to make sure your chicken's fully cooked through and tender enough that you can shred it. So once it was all done cooking, I just shredded my chicken breast with 2 forks. Now I just needed to drain all of the liquid from the chicken mixture. So I placed the strainer into a large bowl and I slowly added everything from the slow cooker into the strainer and bowl. I then pressed down on the chicken to make sure I got as much of the liquid out of the chicken that I could. So just before I moved on to make my white sauce, I got my oven on to start preheating at 350 degrees. Next, I moved on to make the sauce for my burrito. So I started out making a white roux. I took about 2 tablespoons of salted butter and I put it in a medium-sized saucepan over medium to low heat. I added in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and I let the butter melt down, and then I added in about 3 tablespoons of flour. I cooked the mixture for a few minutes to thicken up while stirring it constantly. Next, I turned the burner down to low and I slowly added in 2 cups of chicken broth while constantly whisking. I then added in about half a teaspoon of cumin and a pinch of salt and pepper. I brought it to a simmer while constantly stirring and I let it cook for about 2 to 3 minutes until it started to thicken up. I then removed it from the heat and I added in about half of a 4-ounce can of mild diced green chilies, as well as half of a cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese and half of a cup of sour cream, and then I gave it a good stir. Next, I just sprayed my baking dish. It was about 13 by 9 with some cooking spray, and then I took a burrito-sized tortilla and I put a generous amount of the chicken mixture down the middle, just about a cup or so, and then I sprinkled with some sharp shredded cheddar cheese. I folded the burrito up and I placed it in my baking dish. I did this 3 more times to fill my dish. You can definitely make more burritos if needed. I had plenty of the chicken mixture left after making my 4 large burritos. You will just, of course, need a larger baking dish. Once I was done making my burritos, I poured all of the white sauce all over the top of the burritos and I finished it off with about a 1/4 cup of shredded sharp cheddar cheese. So I placed the burritos in my oven to bake for about 12 minutes, just enough to get the cheese melted. You could also finish them off with the broiler if you want to get the cheese just a little extra crispy. So once the burritos were done cooking in the oven, I just dished them up and I served them alongside some cut up romaine lettuce and some sliced cherry tomatoes. And then I just took a little extra of that creamy white sauce and I drizzled it all over the lettuce and tomatoes, kind of using it as a dressing. Now we are making one of my absolute favorite meals, and it's pork chops with mushroom gravy. So I first seasoned my pork chops on both sides with Kinder's all-purpose seasoning. If you don't have this, don't worry, use whatever seasoning you like, or salt and pepper will be just fine as well. Once I seasoned my pork chops, I then heated up 1 tablespoon of olive oil in my large skillet over medium to high heat. Once heated, I added my pork chops in and I browned them on each side for about 3 minutes aside. So while my pork chops were browning, I prepped my veggies. I sliced my mushrooms to get about 1.5 cups and I diced up half of an onion. Next, I made my gravy sauce. So in a medium-sized mixing bowl, I added in about 3/4 cup of beef broth, 1 can of cream of chicken soup, 1 can of cream of mushroom soup, and about 2 tablespoons of mixed garlic, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I mixed it all up really well. Now that my gravy is all ready to go and my pork chops were brown, I started to add everything into the crock pot. I put my sliced mushrooms in and my diced onion, and then I seasoned with some salt and pepper. I then placed my brown pork chops on top of the mushrooms and onion, and then I poured all of the gravy sauce over them. I then just placed the lid on top and I cooked it on high for 5 hours. So once done, I just served the pork chops over some mashed potatoes and poured plenty of the mushroom gravy on top. I paired it with some steamed green beans that I had seasoned with some salt and pepper. So the last meal I have to share with you is this delicious pepper steak recipe. So to get this one started, I took 1 3/4 cup of beef broth and I poured it into a medium-sized mixing bowl. To that, I added in about 3 tablespoons of low-sodium soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, half a teaspoon of ground ginger, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and a pinch of salt and pepper, 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, 2 teaspoons of brown sugar, and lastly, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. I gave that all a good mix and then I set it aside. I then moved on to prep my veggies. So I sliced up half of an onion into thick slices and I sliced up 2 bell peppers into thick slices as well. And I went with the red and orange bell peppers, but you could definitely go with whatever color of bell pepper you would like. And lastly, I sliced up my mushrooms to get about 1.5 cups. Now I'm ready to get everything into the crock pot. So I added my sliced steak into the crock pot first, and then on top of that, I added my onions, bell peppers, and mushrooms. I then poured all of the sauce that I had made earlier on top, and I mixed it all up really well. I placed 1 tablespoon of salted butter on top, and I set it on low to cook for about 6 hours. You could also cook it on high for about 4 to 5 hours if you'd like to do that instead. Once done, I served this over some white steamed rice. You could also go with brown rice or even egg noodles if you'd prefer that. And I topped it with some sriracha mayo just to give it a nice finishing touch.
All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're not already, make sure to subscribe down below. I'll be posting more videos just like this and many others. I'll see you next time. Bye.